Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, YouTubers. This is Jerry Diamond with How to Get Out of Babylon. I am outside. It's going to be a bit noisy. I got a frog, possibly chickens, roosters, and a car might drive by. And that's a frog or something over there croaking or singing. So we'll do our best. On chapter 16, I'm going to move the thing a little bit closer here. Arrange my goodies. I got water to drink. A wee bit of coffee from this morning. There we are, a little bit better. Okay, I want to talk as loud. All right, so pretend I'm lights out. Okay, a visit with Grandfather Kramer. These are any pictures? Yes, there is. We'll get to one. I'll show it to you when we get to it. All right. Clear my voice. Do my tongue exercises. Actually, seriously, for a speech class, we would do tongue exercises like tongue calisthenics to get so your tongue's not twisted. Gets it exercised up a little bit, limbered up. That way I won't mumble so much. I know I do that too much. I try not to. Okay, so here we go. John took off on the Spirit Flyer. You know, that's what ended the last chapter. John soared higher and higher on the Spirit Flyer, letting it take him where it wanted to go. He had never flown so far away from the town. Farms and fields passed below him. The clear blue sky felt delicious and crisp. Flying on the old red bike was always fun, but it was even more exciting knowing the bike was taking him on another new adventure, to a new place. The Spirit Flyer had a speed of its own. I'm going to make an adjustment here, I'm sorry. I have a pad against my back, but it's not doing me any good, but my back hurts, but actually right now it's my hip that hurts. My right buttock hurts really bad, so I'm going to put the pad under it. Maybe that'll help. Pardon our dust. I gotta unclip this. Come on, where is it? Don't fall off the deck or I have to go down and get it. Looks like a lumbar cushion, but putting pressure on my right hip hurts. Putting pressure on my right hip hurts. All right. All right, now we go. In the background, you can see my firewood stash and my Airstream. Should have about 4 cords of wood. I don't think I do, but we have a mountain of it over there. I've been splitting wood for the last several days. Whenever I can't do it. A little bit of that Timothy nice, but the rest I did all by myself. All by my lonesome self. 67-year-old man out in the heat splitting wood. Thank you very much. Okay. The wheels turned by themselves while John's feet rested on the pedals. Twice John tried to turn the bike to look at something on the ground more closely, but the bike did not slow down. John soon realized he should just let the bike take him where it wanted. He wondered if his aunt and uncle were worrying about him. He didn't know about the unusual things Horace Grimsby was doing at that minute, using a gas that smelled like death, change you couldn't see in a strange black box. As John searched the ground, trying to recognize places he had visited before, a shadowy cloud appeared in the blue sky just behind him, blowing along at the same speed as John. The cloud swirled, changing into an angry tornado, but then 2 red eyes appeared, a white circled X, and as the mouth opened, 2 red fangs. His tongue flicked out silently. John did not see it. Then its mouth opened wide and moved closer. John had been watching the shadow of the Spirit Flyer race down the highway below him. Suddenly he saw a huge shadow overtake the shadow of the Spirit Flyer. "What's that?" John said, looking closer. The shadow had a strangely familiar shape. It almost looked like a... John turned in his seat. The sky was blotted out with the enormous presence of the serpent, the mouth wide open. 2 fangs bigger than telephone poles, oozing with poison. John opened his mouth to scream, but the Spirit Flyer suddenly shot forward. For an instant, John felt a hard wind on his face, then nothing. The ground below was a blur of greens and browns, then a flash of white. He heard a small, shrill hum. Then the earth came into focus once more. He went into light speed. Warp speed number 5, Mr. Zulo. Warp speed 5. Then the earth came into focus once more. What happened? John asked, sitting high in the air. He whirled around, expecting to see the gigantic snake, but the sky was an empty blue. Where did it go? He asked himself, and where am I? The snake didn't go anywhere. He did. Then he saw something familiar, a big red barn with a big white door next to an old white house and a long picket fence. From high in the air, it looked different, but John still recognized it, Grandfather Kramer's farm. So at 250 miles in blink. Boy, that was fast, John said. The trip usually took 5 hours in the car, but John had flown there in 20 minutes. He looked nervously behind him again, afraid the snake might reappear, but the sky was clear. Just then the old red bike began descending on the ground, passing over the large pond used to water the cows. John saw a man with white hair in the alfalfa field next to the workshop. The man was waving at him. Even from the air, John could see Grandfather Kramer's warm smile. John waved back. The Spirit Flyer glided down and landed gently on the cool alfalfa next to his grandfather. That's quite a bicycle, young man, Grandfather Kramer said, his bright eyes twinkling in his old wrinkled face. John jumped off the Spirit Flyer, knocked the kickstand down, and ran to hug his grandfather. Aren't you surprised that it flies? John asked excitedly. Well, when you're as old as me, you see a lot of strange things over the years if you stay alert, the old man said and smiled. Like your face. You're awfully pale, boy. Looks like you've seen a ghost. And you're trembling. John looked down at his hands. They were shaking. He had moved so fast he didn't have time to be scared when he saw the snake. Now the fear was coming out. Something's after me, John said. Something in the air. Something is in the air. And it's terrible. It's big. Bigger than a tornado, and it looks just like a snake. It has red eyes and red fangs and a white circle with an X inside on its chest. It was behind me, its mouth open. Then something happened, and I was here all of a sudden, and I don't see it now. The sky is clear. A serious look crossed Grandfather Kramer's face. He looked up at the clear blue sky for a moment, then frowned. Let's go to the shop, the old man said. We have work to do. John tried to push the Spirit Flyer through the tall green alfalfa, but the wheels got tangled. Here, Grandfather Kramer said, sitting down on the back of the old bike. Let's ride. I don't think it will carry, but before John finished, the old red bicycle rose into the air and glided over the field to the workshop. It's never given anyone a ride before, John said. Grandfather Kramer only smiled. They landed just outside the workshop's door. A real smooth ride, Grandfather Kramer said. A Spirit Flyer always gives a smooth ride. Even smoother if you know how to sit right on the one. You've ridden a Spirit Flyer before, John asked. Sure, but first things first, the old man said. He looked up at the sky again. John looked too, but the sky was still clear. Grandfather Kramer shook his head mysteriously. Let's take it inside for a better look. John rolled the Spirit Flyer into the workshop. Once inside, he breathed deeply, smelling the aroma of leather, wood, and grease. A rich, exciting smell that reminded him of all the happy times he had spent inside the old shop, playing with his cousins or watching his grandfather fix things. John especially liked playing on the old red tractor that was parked inside the shop. He loved to sit in the seat of the tractor, turning the old worn steering wheel, pushing the gears, pretending he was driving. His grandfather had let him steer it many times when they plowed the garden or cut the grass. Let's roll it over by the workbench, Grandfather Kramer said, switching on the light. John knocked the kickstand down. Grandfather Kramer ran his experienced hands over the Spirit Flyer as if he were looking for something. John watched carefully, knowing the wonder of those old hands. He had seen his grandfather fix almost anything, and the toys Grandfather Kramer could build out of scraps of wood, wire, and leather were amazing. John had a whole collection of toys in his room, all made by Grandfather Kramer. Finally, his hands stopped rubbing the old bicycle. Grandfather Kramer stood up. He looked concerned. He walked over to the window and stared into the sky. What's wrong, John asked. He ran over to the window. The sky was still clear and blue. I don't see it, but the snake was right behind me. Do you believe me? Of course I believe you, the old man said. Why don't you tell me everything from start to finish about this bicycle, where you got it, and so on? The old man walked over to an old white refrigerator and took out 2 quart jars of iced tea. John licked his lips. Grandfather always seemed to know what you wanted even before you wanted it. He poured John a glass and one for himself. John sipped the cool tea and began his story. Once in a while, Grandfather Kramer asked a question, but most of the time he just listened, whittling a piece of wood with a pocket knife. John drank 3 glasses of tea while telling the story of the junkyard, how he discovered the bike flew, how it stopped flying, how the bikes were stolen, and how they were found. Pardon? I thought he had water. I don't have water. Yeah, I do. It's somewhere, I thought. Pretty sure I do. No, I don't. Just hours old coffee. Still good and still warm. So, here we go. Back was good for a while. A little deep aches that makes you want to throw up, it just makes you almost feel sick. Okay. Once in a while, Grandfather Kramer asked a question, but most of the time he just listened, whittling a piece of wood with a pocket knife. John drank 3 glasses of tea while telling the story of the junkyard, how he discovered the bike flew, how it stopped flying, how the bikes were stolen, and how they were found. Grandfather Kramer smiled. He sliced off a few more pieces of wood, then looked at what he was making. He turned it over in his hands. Uncle Bill and Aunt Betty said you might know something about why all these things happened, John said. Then he added softly, maybe that you would tell me something about my father and mother. I don't understand anything. But since we got the thieves, I guess it's all over now. Grandfather Kramer looked up quickly. He stared at John. It's not over, the old man said solemnly. It's not over at all. The thieves stealing the bicycle was just another trick to get the spirit flyer away from you. The snake is what matters, and you said the snake was right behind you before you came here. Well, the sky is clear now, John said. No, it isn't clear, the old man said, his face serious. There's something in the air, and in a few minutes you'll see it, but first things first. Okay, in a few minutes you will see it, but first things first. Grandfather Kramer put down the piece of wood and pocket knife. He opened a cabinet drawer and took out a small bottle with a cork. After pulling out the cork, he poured a clear liquid from the bottle onto a rag. The liquid had an odd smell. What's that? John asked. It's something that will make things clear, Grandfather Kramer said. As he squatted down beside the spirit flyer, right below where the handlebars connected to the frame, Grandfather Kramer rubbed with the rag. The red paint started to dissolve. I don't think I sanded it there or even painted it because it wasn't rusty, John said. Of course it wasn't rusty, Grandfather Kramer said. He stood up. Look. The old man pointed to the place where he had dissolved the paint. John bent over. What he saw made him feel calm and quiet inside, yet he wasn't sure why. He dropped down to his knees and just stared. 3 small golden crowns connected to each other were stuck into the metal right below the handlebars. A chill passed through John's body like deep music. He touched the crowns with his finger. They were made of real metal, not paint or a decal. They were carefully hidden in the thick paint, Grandfather Kramer said. You weren't supposed to see them, just like you weren't supposed to take this bicycle home and fix it. That snake was there to scare you away, just like this one that followed you here. In fact, it's outside now, waiting. What? John said, jumping to his feet. Now stay calm, Grandfather Kramer said. That's why I showed you the crowns first. This is a genuine spirit flyer. One has to be certain. Since there are fakes, we are safe. This bicycle comes from the 3 kings. The 3 kings, John asked. What kings? Where are they? Who are they? Grandfather Kramer smiled. He squeezed the boy's shoulder, then walked over to the old red tractor. From under the seat, he pulled out a pair of goggles, such as old-time airplane pilots would wear. The same sign of the 3 crowns was stuck into the frame right between the 2 eyepieces. In tiny letters on both sides was the name, Spirit Flyer Vision. You mean these kings make more than bicycles, John asked. Yes, the old man. Let's go by the window. But you said that big snake was out there, John said, pulling back on his hand. Do you want to know the answers to your questions, or don't you? Grandfather Kramer asked patiently. Many times we ask questions we don't really want answered. I want to know, John said, looking fearfully at the window. At least I think I do. Yes or no? Grandfather Kramer said. Maybe you're not ready yet. Maybe you're still young, still too young. Too young still. Hey, somebody whack out that. I got a moderator on. Delete that thing there. I'm like, I can't do it right now. Good, Grandfather Kramer said. You've seen the crowns. Now you need to see something in the air. I don't see how those crowns answer anything, John said, and I don't like that snake. That's a normal and healthy attitude, the old man said, but we are safe here, trust me. Reluctantly, John followed his grandfather over to the window of the workshop. He flattened himself against the wall, then carefully peeked outside. The sky was clear and blue. There's nothing out there, John said, stepping in front of the window. He looked out. It was a beautiful sunny day. Look closer, Grandfather said, and John looked. I don't see anything, John said. Look out the alfalfa field on the hill, the old man said. John looked. Everything appeared normal, just alfalfa. But there's nothing there, John said. Look deeper, Grandfather said. You see the darkness? Look deeper, John asked. What darkness? John looked again. Then he saw what his grandfather meant. Part of the field was darker, covered in a shadow. That's only a shadow, John said, beginning to feel impatient. Then it hit him. There was nothing in the sky to make a shadow. John looked at the clear blue sky, then back at the shadow. Ever so slightly, the shadow moved. John then recognized the shadow's shape. It was the shape of a giant snake. It's the snake, John screamed. He's here, but where is he? What will we do? John searched the sky frantically, afraid to see the monster snake, but even more scared of not seeing it. You're only seeing a shadow, John, the old man said patiently. It's there. It's in the air. But I want you to look deeper. deeper, John said. How can I look deeper? What do you mean? I will put the goggles on you, Grandfather Kramer said. I think you will be able to see. These are special goggles, John, and if you do see, you will never in all your life forget what you see. But it's a beginning to the answers of some of your questions, but only a beginning. Maybe you'll understand better why the Spirit Flyer found you and also why. But I found the Spirit Flyer, John interrupted. I found it at the dump with Roger. Grandfather Kramer just smiled. He patted John's back with his old hands and squeezed his shoulder. You have much to learn, the old man said. The bicycle is full of more secrets than you can imagine, but that's why we will use the Spirit Flyer goggles. We'll use the goggles to see deeper than our imagination allows. Okay, here's a picture. Irish rendition or whatever. It's in a grandfather and him, showing him the Spirit Flyer goggles by the window. Okay, getting dark out here. The goggles to see deeper than our imagination allows. Then you can see why things aren't completed. It isn't over. You see only one shadow, that is that of a horrible snake, but that's only a tiny part of the whole deeper world. John stared out the window again. The shadow remained large on the field of a hill of alfalfa. The words of his grandfather puzzled him, yet he felt a certain excitement, as if he almost understood something new and powerful and even dangerous. Now I want you to close your eyes, Grandfather Kramer said. I will put the goggles on you, but keep your eyes closed. Then when I tell you, I want you to open your eyes, but only for a second. One glance will be enough. But I can already see through the goggles, John said, seeing his grandfather's hand behind the dark glass. You're only seeing the surface side, the old man said, but if you look through them from the other side, you will see deeper. Now close your eyes. John squeezed his eyes shut. The old rubber strap of the goggles pinched his ears and pulled his hair. Then they rested on his nose. Grandfather held his shoulders and pointed at him, so he was looking out the window. Why are you holding on to me, John asked. For safety, his old man answered. Do you feel ready? Yes. Okay, open your eyes, look deeper. John opened his eyes. Almost as soon as his eyes were open, he began to scream, but only a small sound came out of his mouth, as if he were breathless. His body went stiff, and suddenly he fell back limp into Grandfather Kramer's waiting arms. The boy had fainted at his vision of the deeper world. Okay, that was it. Chapter 16. I'm done. Voice. Everything else. Let me see who anybody's on. Oh, I can do it like that. Yeah. Slow it down a little bit. Maybe we'll talk a little bit. Who knows? If anybody's wanting to talk. Somebody logged in. Oh man, I'll tell you what. Zeppelin Camus, hey, how you doing? You don't got a wrench on you. You should be a moderator. I'm going to make you a moderator, dude. Okay, because you're always here. Okay. Because all these should be deleted. They need to be deleted. I'm going to say goodnight to everybody, Zapton, and I'll delete these. That's just so stupid. Every day I think I do this. I know who it is. Hey, Connor, go away. You're a scumbag, and God is going to kill you. You're going to take your life. Get saved, or die. Hope they're still listening. You're such a scumbag and a low life. Okay, I'm going to make you a moderator pretty quick there. You'll see a blue wrench. If you have a blue wrench, that means you're a moderator, and you can delete those as they come up. All right, good night. Bye-bye. God bless.